So I work for General Mills, and how many people saw Cheerios this morning in your breakfast line? You'll play? Some of that stuff was there, some of that stuff was not there. I got to talk to ARC about making sure that the food line has General Mills food in it. How many people here are scared about the Internet of Things? I am. And here's why. I started this journey of trying to build MES systems and try to figure out what we're going to do in the manufacturing space started in 1993. And at that time, the big wisdom was just connect things. Just start spending a lot of money connecting things, and good things will happen. Sounds a little bit like Internet of Things, doesn't it? We rebranded it 20 years later. And I'm here to tell you that we've had huge success at General Mills. I am capturing 50 million data points a day. I didn't hear any applause. 50 million data points a day. The question you should ask is, what the hell are you doing with it? Right? So the Internet of Things is not the end game. The end game is do. It is business value. It is creation of the business value. The Internet of Things is the enabler to make it happen. And so I guess my hair that's left on my head goes up a little bit when we get all excited about Internet of Things. We talked about connectivity, because that's not the end game. That's the means to the end, and the end is, what am I going to do with it? And so what I'm going to talk to you about is a little bit about our journey in this Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition and what smart manufacturing means, and give a little education there. And then a little bit about what General Mills does in this space and what I really envision us to move forward with. So how many people have heard of Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition? Maybe a quarter to a half. Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition is a group of folks that got together back, I'll have a slide on a little timeline, got back together about 5 years ago and said, there's a huge gap in our space. We're trying to figure out how to transform the way we conceptualize, design, and operate the manufacturing enterprise. And what were we given? Vendor-based solutions. It says, just pick me and I'll help you out. Just pick my suite of products and I will lead you to the promised land of having everything you need. Does that work? Some cases, I mean, you get a long ways, but you don't really get to the end game. So our vision was trying to figure out this whole, you've seen this slide done a million different ways. But the buzzwords of today of agile, demand-driven supply chains, how do you do that? We want to have sustainability in our operations and in our energy. We want to have connective tissue between our suppliers and our customers, right? We want mom and apple pie. You can say Internet of Things is going to enable all that, but this is what we're trying to do in the manufacturing space. So we sat there as a loosely formed group in 2006, and we hosted a workshop in Washington, D.C., and we got a lot of big companies together to say, tell us your problems, and do these problems resonate across industry? So we had oil and gas, we had the big process industries, we had automotive industries, we had food industries, and we developed a roadmap of trying to figure out, well, how would you skin this cat? How would you go about solving these problems that we can't seem to solve? We've done workshops after workshops. We did a Department of Energy workshop. We did a workshop through the Society of Chemical Engineers. We've had technical meetings. And then we formed as a 501c6 nonprofit organization back in 2012. So now we can officially get money from grants from the government and actually go after building something. So the Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition is not just a think tank or just a group of people getting in there to share their problems and give the white papers over to our automation partners. Our mission is actually we are going to go after and build a platform to enable this stuff to happen. To that end, this past year, we got a $13 million project from the Department of Energy. And we have 2 test beds that we're actually being supported by the government, one at General Dynamics in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and one in Praxair down in Texas. And I'll talk briefly about that. So we're working. Who are we? It starts with the big generals. So General Dynamics, General Mills, General Motors, Praxair, Corning, Pfizer, Alcoa are some of the companies that are participating in this effort. We've got NASA, UCLA, Rockwell, Honeywell, Emerson, Inventus, Schneider, etc. You can take a look at all the different organizations that we've got involved here. So it's a cadre of academics, industry, and government. We've created work teams to go after the issues of what are the strategies on the business side, what about the platform technology and how we would do this, what about test beds and doing demonstration of this. And then one insightful question that got asked this morning, we have a work group on that, is, well, what about people? At the end of the day, people are part of this ecosystem, and they have to be able to be involved in smart manufacturing. So what is it? I'm trying to boil it down and make it even simpler. This is a shot at it. Our group is going to continue to try to boil it down. And I said it's the ability to take action in real time to optimize your assets in the context of your business strategies and imperative. I should have highlighted a second word in there. There's 2 words that kind of catch everyone. One is optimize, and I bolded that one. And the other one on there that is kind of a showstopper is context. Even in the Internet of Things, how do you translate the context of that data so that you can act on it? I could care less about data that I ignore. So in here, there's really 3 key words. It's action, optimize, and context. To be able to do that, we've kind of defined some things and said, and you've heard this story before, we want applications that can share data and data that can go across applications. We heard about interoperability. Clearly, we need that. We need workflow so that this process that we're going to use to enable business value is actually managed. So it's not totally unstructured, totally unmanaged activity. It's actually a managed work. And it has to be in time and secure, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you do that? And I'm getting to an architecture drawing, by the way. You have to have dynamic orchestration of your manufacturing steps and processes. You have to be able to address the time constant difference between real-time data and time series data and transactional and event data. You have to address this concept of seams, where we have variability between what goes on in a warehouse, what goes on a processing floor, what goes out in distribution, et cetera, et cetera. They're all different lenses, but if we're really to go after smart manufacturing, we've got to stitch the whole thing together without losing the state of that data. So as an example, what does that mean? In our business, we're making food. If I had to hold on to every food product until you consumed it, there would not be enough inventory available in the marketplace, right? So I have to understand the state of that material and say, is it good to sell it? Is it good to consume it? That's why you hear about recalls, right? Because we end up finding out later, after it's already in your cabinet, that something's bad about it. We didn't know it when we made it. The information came later. So this whole genealogy tree, we can never lose the chain of custody. So you have to understand this concept of state. It has to be multi-vendor. We have to be interoperable. And the one things that I don't, they're interoperable, accessible, affordable, secure, and reliable. I don't know if you've noticed this, but as you look at your lineup of speakers in this forum, how many of those speakers are at multi-billion-dollar companies? Most of them. Mine is. We're at 19 billion. And I think that's the size of your project, your MES project, 19 billion. You need a lot of money to afford this stuff. How can you get smart manufacturing? It costs you lots of money and lots of time. The big guys can do it. So we can do it. Procter & Gamble can do it. Coca-Cola can do it. Exxon. Pick your big company name. They can all do it. At the end of the day, we need an order of magnitude shift in time of deployment and cost of implementation in a secured, reliable manner. Internet of Things will enable that, but we got a lot of solution work to do to get us there. So we're going to talk a little bit about kind of our overall design. Greg talked about the bottom layer, saying, hey, that stuff isn't going to change. You already have wiring done. You already have control systems. You already have stuff that you've purchased in your site. That's what's kind of down here below with production models, calibration, maintenance, sensor data, traditional manufacturing, automation tools. That's the stuff you own. What needs to be put on top of that in this Internet of Things, in this smart manufacturing platform, to be able to get value out of it, to actually take action, develop a process that actually works? We have to take that data. We've got to figure out how to map it so we can put context to it, and then we have to add value-add applications on top of that. Why? To do something with it. So what's the struggle? Well, the struggle is if you take a look at how that data was captured in your system in the first place, in some cases it might just be daytime value, right? Time series data. Got a date, got a time, got a value. What's the context that you want to wrap that with? Does that data know anything about what the line was running, where it was running, the environmental conditions in my plant, the weather outside, the consumer preference of the product? I mean, what does it know? It knows date-time value. I got to wrap context around that. Well, there was a maintenance record. What do I know? It broke down. A work order was created. Bob the mechanic worked on it. I got to add more context to it. So if I'm going to layer on the concept of an application that's going to add value, I better darn well have an infrastructure that allows to take the data, apply context to it, so I can do something with it. And what we're suggesting is to be able to get these applications added on here, I need to have a unified platform that allows my applications to play in. So here's a very simple model. Here it is. Smartphone. An iPhone has roughly, 500,000 applications that I could download on it. Some of which add value to me, some of which don't, but there's 500,000 applications. If I go inside of General Mills and said, how many applications do I have to pick from to add value to my manufacturing space at General Mills? I can tell you this, the number's less than 500,000. The number is limited by the set of suppliers that I picked, whether it was Invensys or Rockwell or Siemens or SAP. That limited my set. So what's really cool about this concept is it set idea makers, entrepreneurs, it set them free to solve problems. What we need to do in smart manufacturing is release our data to the thinkers of the world so they can help us solve our problems. That's what's going on behind smart manufacturing. And if we can do that, it will move from the wild, wild west to actually value creative. Those who want to see an eye chart on architecture, raise your hand, otherwise I'll skip it. Hey, good. This is how we would do it. There's the cloud, there's applications as a service, there's an app store, all those concepts about how we're doing that. But to continue this initiative, we needed funding. So we've been working with NIST, who is here at the session. We've been working with Department of Energy. We've got a grant to do the platform prototypes at Praxair and General Dynamics. We're working with Cisco and Rockwell on some of their technologies and platforms. We're trying to make it open systems instead of being proprietary. That's what we're in the middle of working on. We have a demo. I'm not running it today, but we actually have a demo at Praxair that actually takes their steam methane furnace and we actually run through a highfalutin model to actually optimize the energy reduction of that system. So, General Mills. Why does General Mills care about this? I told you a little bit. First of all, you know, our world is just like yours, is that it's highly uncertain. Food to fuel, droughts in California, pick your area of the country that is wildly speculative and just unrest. At the end of the day, our mission is to free up margin and enable growth. So we take a look at what manufacturing is going to do at General Mills. It's going to do that. So it's not about Internet of Things. It's about making margin and growing our business. What else is it about? It's about protecting our brand. So just like the pharmaceutical industry with the Tylenol scare and all that kind of stuff that they had and tampering, we're a branded company. If our brand is tarnished, we lose margin. It is our business. And we have to figure out how to do that safely and trustworthy, because at the end of the day, that's who we're feeding. We're feeding your kids. We're feeding you. We're feeding your grandchildren. What's a little bit different about us that we constantly have to think about, our product goes in your body. So it matters how well we do in manufacturing. It's not just about what it costs. That keeps us in business. We have to know about what it does because it goes in you. So why are we so interested? What's your ability to stitch together all the stuff that you want to do? We're going to hear, I think, a story about a $19 billion project and how they stitched it together at Dow. At General Mills, I don't have $19 billion. That's the size of my company. To be able to go after smart manufacturing, it requires a lot of lifting by either integrators or folks like myself. We need to go from field to fork. As we're trying to figure out, you're sitting down there consuming your bowl of Cheerios, you might wonder where the grain came from. You might wonder, what did we do in processing with that grain? How much treatment did we give it? If you're worried about gluten-free, or if you're worried about extra allergens in your product, right? You want to know what we did to it. So this field-to-fork mentality is no longer a dream. It's a reality we live in on a daily basis. And when you take a look at the tip of the iceberg, Greg used the word stuff. I've used this many times. Our Internet of Things has turned out to be a pile of stuff. I call it my ecosystem of stuff, because what you'll see in there is, like, especially these core functions and these business applications, by themselves, almost every single one of those needs a separate architecture to implement it. Separate database to implement it. It's not fully integrated. It's not built on a platform. It's a point solution to do something. And we got a lot of point solutions to do stuff. So at the end of the day, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to execute a demand-driven supply chain. Why am I trying to introduce a demand-driven supply chain? I'm trying to reduce the margins. I'm trying to increase the margins of our plant and grow our business. If someone said, Jim, I need you to try to figure out, we're a $19 billion company, I need you to figure out how to grow the business by $3 billion. Would I naturally go out and invent the Internet of Things as the solution to go do that? That's my problem. I have a real business problem that says we need to be able to get to the consumer. We need to have direct replenishment of the consumer. Why? Increase our margins and grow our business. How am I going to do that? The iceberg. There's all the stuff underneath that must be true for me to do the top thing. The goal is not any one of those. The goal is the top thing. And that's what we're trying to do with smart manufacturing. We're trying to figure out this ecosystem of stuff. How do you make it happen? Because you can go in that showroom right there next door, and you can see someone that's got a plant historian. You can see someone that's got workflow. You can see someone that's got line scheduling. You can see someone that's got maintenance. And then you should ask them the question about, well, so tell me how much it's going to cost and how many servers I'm going to have in my ecosystem of stuff when I'm all done. And then if I expand that to be my total enterprise across the globe, give me that footprint. Tell me how many people it's going to take to keep that infrastructure supportive. And what you end up having is, if you're a big company, it looks not so bad, other than it's a lot of money and it's a fair amount of time. If you're a small to medium-sized company, you're not even knocking on the door because it's just too much. You might be able to do one or two elements of this, but you can't kind of do the whole thing. And so the challenge in smart manufacturing and the stuff that we get impassioned about trying to figure out, how do we change the order of magnitude that the small and mediums can do what the larges do, so that we can lift up American manufacturing and make it competitive again and create more jobs and make better products and have higher efficiency and make the earth a sustainable place that doesn't have useless energy consumption, right? That's what our kind of higher than thou mission is. And I'll close with kind of this slide. I started off saying we've got 50 million data points at General Mills, but I'm going to tell you what got us here won't get us to that vision that we had on smart manufacturing. And that's why we're so passionate about Internet of Things is clearly an enabler, but it's not the end game. It's the smart manufacturing around doing and acting and optimizing and having a business process that's managed so that when the pump that's in your factory sends the signal to the pump supplier, that the signal doesn't just go off, that it actually gets listened to, managed, and fixed. So we don't have the gum or the tape, like the speaker this morning said, over the alarm, but we actually have a managed process. So I'm very pumped on smart manufacturing because not only of my journey, but because I think we need to be in a different place. And I think a lot of the right things around technology are happening to actually enable it. So thank you very much.